do a little bit of review. You and I haven't seen each other for 3 days, live. So I wanted to make sure we reviewed some things. Okay. We want to make sure we remember that photosynthesis is the process that plants use to make their own food. Respiration is step 2. Just like with us, once we eat our food, our body has to digest that food. So the photosynthesis is the plant help making its own food, and respiration is the plant using that food for energy. We want to make sure we see as well. I saw this graphic and I thought it was amazing. If you have a printer at home, this would be a great one to print out and paste into your notebook. If we were face to face, we definitely would do that. Okay. So I want us to look at the interdependence here. Remember that word interdependence means that these two processes rely on one another. I couldn't have one of these processes without having the other one. So they are interdependent, just like your mom is dependent on your dad. Okay, your dad is dependent on your mom. They help each other to be the best parents for you. Okay, and so photosynthesis and respiration are very similar in that way. So let's look here. We want to make sure we remember that photosynthesis needs carbon dioxide and water. We want to remember that the abbreviations for carbon dioxide and water are CO2, carbon dioxide, and H2O, water. And then it's going to transform into, through the process of photosynthesis, oxygen and sugar. Okay, please make sure that you're muted. Isn't it interesting that what photosynthesis gives out, photosynthesis produces, respiration needs? Yes, these are the, can't see what I'm pointing to. These are the products of photosynthesis and the reactants or ingredients for respiration. Photosynthesis gives respiration exactly what it needs. But our new notes for today are going to focus on where that water comes from. Please write this in your notes. Where does the water come from? I've already released our new notes on transpiration in our orange folder. We're going to be in that orange folder for another week. It should say notes 5, transpiration. Make sure you get those notes. They'll help you to understand what you need to be doing for tomorrow.
You're missing your class.
For tomorrow's graded session. Give me 1 second, guys. It's important that we stay muted. Scared me to death. All right. So when we're looking here, it's important for us to see that the water comes from transpiration. Do you remember transpiration? You should have talked about it with your science teachers last semester when you studied the water cycle. And if you had Miss Neville last semester, you know we talked about it. Transpiration, remember Miss Neville coined it as plant sweat, okay? Humans perspire. When we sweat, it's called perspiration. When plants sweat, it's called transpiration. Feel free to draw that picture if you need to. Remember, this lesson is being recorded. So if I'm going too fast and you really want to study this picture some more, feel free to watch the recorded lesson when I release it to you today. We want to make sure we understand that during transpiration, the roots absorb water. That water travels up through the stem. That water travels up through the stem, through the xylem, And then that water is released as steam out of the stomata in the leaves. So when we're talking about transpiration, that water that's photosynthesis needs, remember photosynthesis
Miss
needs.
Neville, if you're talking, I can't hear it.
I'm sorry, sweetie, you'll have to watch the recorded lesson. See, Naomi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So CO2 plus water. That water comes from transpiration. That water comes from transpiration, okay? So transpiration is needed as well. That's another step in the process that's needed. Transpiration helps photosynthesis to work, okay? So as we're working today, as we're learning today, we want to make sure we understand how the three processes work together. In your notes, you should have written down, transpiration provides water for the plant to make sugar and oxygen. And we see that here. In this process of photosynthesis, okay? That water comes from transpiration. So someone turn on their mic and answer this question for me. Could photosynthesis happen without transpiration?
No.
No. That water from transpiration comes, that water from in photosynthesis comes from that plant sweating. Please mute yourself. Okay. We're having some problems with kids forgetting how to mute, so some of you won't be able to unmute today. All right, so as we're looking here, we see our transpiration is very important. The last thing, or the next to last thing in our notes today, is we're going to talk about the complete cycle of the plant obtaining or eating and using resources for energy. Remember, obtaining and using resources for energy is one of the characteristics of any organism. If I am a living thing, I should be able to obtain, get, and use resources for energy. So plants are organisms. So let's make here in our notes, and this can be pretty big if you'd like it to. It can be smaller. You just need to be able to read it. Label a cycle. And if you were in class with me face to face, you would have seen the cycle look like this kind of. So you don't have to do those boxes if you don't want to. Okay. And throughout that cycle, we want to write the word photosynthesis. We want to write the word respiration, and we want to write the process transpiration out. Okay. Now, let's put them in order of which one happens first. Which one must happen first in order for the others to occur? Would anyone like to unmute and take a guess?
Transportation.
Transpiration. Very good. Transpiration is step 1. That would mean photosynthesis is step 2. And respiration is the 3rd step in our process. Please take some time to finish drawing this chart. We'll be going on to our last page today in a moment. Okay, so let's go on. So what happens to the plant when it doesn't have water very available? When like fall or winter come and it doesn't have as much sunlight as it used to? Does the plant die? No. Write down in your notes the question, what happens when sunlight and water are not as available? The answer there is plant hibernation, okay, or dormancy. We want to make sure we understand here, this is the very same tree that we're looking at here, but what we see here is that plant, this tree, with that beautiful sunlight, no doubt it's probably rained in the last couple of days, that tree will then start to look bare and its leaves will fall off. It looks dead, but it's not dead, it's sleeping. For the same reason that a black bear hibernates. They hibernate because food won't be readily available. So our stimulus here would be, you need to write this down, possibly make a cause and effect chart if you want to. The stimulus would be a lack of water and sunlight. And so the response would be the plant enters a state of dormancy. Take some time to finish this up, please. We'll be going on in 3 minutes. You do not need to draw that picture, guys. Take another 2 minutes to finish up if you need to. Okay, so let's talk about what your assignments will be today. what you need to be working on. So let's take a look